Greetings again. I'm going to throw a video out there real quick tonight because I'm about to go on a vacation. I'm taking my kids to Michigan to meet their grandparents finally. Well, Isabel's met them, but she was too young to remember. So, anyways, I'm getting this out there before I go. You're not going to see a video on my channel for at least 8 or 9 days because, yeah. I don't normally do reviews, but I thought I'd bring up an underlooked classic. Well, it's not really a classic per se, but Galactic Emperor replaces a lot of 4X games in my library for me. It's one of my favorite board games, period. And I've played over 160, well, I've got over 160 games in my collection anyway. I've played hundreds of board games, and Galactic Emperor is one of my favorites. A lot of people give it a lukewarm reception because they compare it immediately to Twilight Imperium and think of how much lesser a game Galactic Emperor is, but I look at it the other way around. Twilight Imperium can take anywhere from 4 to 12 hours to play depending on how many people you play with and what goals you go to, whereas Galactic Emperor is going to be somewhere between 90 and 150 minutes. So, you know, an hour and a half to 2.5 hours long. Tom Vassell did a review of Galactic Emperor several years ago where he thought of it as, well, you know, for me it's almost as good as Twilight Imperium. It just seems like it's missing something. And for me, I'm sorry, I got to think about it the other way around. It's the fact that it can pack as much as the 4X space experience in a 90-minute package that it does, that's playable by 6 players within 2 to 2.5 hours. I think it does an outstanding job of going well above and beyond the Call of Duty as a game. So I'm not going to go too much further into the reviews and the details because Tom Vassell and others have excellent reviews that show you how to play Galactic Emperor, but I'm just going to throw a couple of pointers out for people that may or may not. Maybe you need a few bits of starter advice. Check it out. Now, I know the rulebook mentions and welcomes table talk, but I'm going to stress that just as much as, if not even more than Twilight Imperium, table talk and making and breaking of alliances and making deals is going to be even more important in Galactic Emperor. But it's going to be more difficult when you don't have things like trade goods to hand around. So you're just going to have to play like you did back when you were playing on your Risk board when you were 9 and just be nice to people and stuff like that. To that end, there are a couple of useful bargaining chips. If you have or want this, the Galactic Throne, you want to be start player and have dibs on actions, this is your friend. And what I mean by this is, if you know the rules, then you understand that when you have the throne, you can set the turn order to go clockwise or counterclockwise depending on where you point this arrow. Trying to get the bid for the Galactic Throne during the Regent phase, you might do yourself a favor taking the person to your immediate left or your right or whatever and haggling with them not to go up against you for the throne by pointing this in their direction. You might even go the other way around, and when it comes to you taking, okay, start turn, you know, okay, it's my turn, what direction am I going to point the turn order today? Then you look to your left and your right and think to yourself, you know what, I want to do a 1-2 punch for rolls. If I take this roll, will you take that one? Huh. And it might help kind of get things to go the way you want them to go. So it's not like Puerto Rico where you're just helplessly hoping the next guy falls into your trap, but you can set things up. Just be careful who you piss off along the way. Speaking of pissing people off, during the Warlord and Regency phases, if you decide to take one of these actions, watch out for who you piss off early in the game. Because early in the game is not a time to go to war with somebody. Trust me, if you try to take worlds from them through Regency, then during the Warlord phase, they're going to kick the shit right out of you. Anyways, granting a few points here and there, and maybe even getting into a friendly contest with your neighbors, throwing a couple ships at empires just to get shit to change hands, it does actually benefit both of you because you can score up some early victory points, as long as you don't make the war too costly. If you're mashing entire fleets with your cruisers and your dreadnoughts up against each other, though, and rendering yourself to uselessness, then the neighbors on the opposite sides of you will make mincemeat out of you, take their worlds, and win the game. So just be careful how hard you do this. Most importantly, though, you need time to be able to build up to get science before that star in the center blows up. So that's going to cost you a lot of energy to get the sciences that you want. The good ones are costly. So you want to save energy by not having to continuously rebuild a fleet because you pissed in the wrong person's Wheaties. there will be fighting by the end of the game. You'll need to, because once these double planets start coming out near the end of the game, oh, that's where the big points are at the end of the Regency Phase. So there will be war. There will be fighting. The winner is probably going to be the person who is able to win the most combats on these double point worlds. So there will be a fight. Hell, there's probably going to be a fight for the wormhole in the middle of the boards to get a fleet wherever they want. That's a hell of an advantageous position too. I've seen fleets go to war just to try to secure the wormhole and keep people from going into it. You know, it's an important strategy. Now, with a few exceptions, speaking of science, all of the technology in the game is actually pretty good. Of the few exceptions I'm going to make are long-range scanners. Yeah, I know long-range scanners has the ability basically to keep you from getting null space if there's a lot of empty space coming up during the Explorer phase. So maybe you'll get a better option, but that's the point, is it's a risk. It's a small chance, and it's very situational. And based on how often you get to do Explorer before you run out of sector to explore and you just get that extra warfare action, it's a technology that outlives its welcome. Eventually you don't need it anymore. In a 6-player game, you're going to use it 3 times. I think it was 3 times. I personally don't like Diplomat very much either, but a lot of my friends do. So I'm not 100% able to stand by that decision. Being able to buy extra influence for 2 marks whether or not you'd be paying more for it, yeah, it's situational, but then how many times have I not bought a 3rd influence because I didn't have the money or couldn't spare it? So, yeah, and there are better people, better players out there at manipulating the Regency Phase than me anyways, so... Now, my favorites are still really cheap technologies. I know there's really good expensive stuff, you know, extra dice for attacks and defenses and stuff like that. But my favorite pieces of technology are Time Warp and Saboteur. Not just because I'm a Rocky Horror Picture Show fan either. No, the Time Warp is awesome because you get to re-roll dice with it. And not just your own dice. You can actually use this as another one of those bargaining chips to try to get people to work with you by helping someone in a fight that you're not even involved with. Or maybe you're trying to help keep someone from getting annihilated so their neighbors don't move in and feast and gain points on you. I don't know. There are at least a million ways to use Time Warp to re-roll dice, not just on your own defenses or offenses, so you get a lot of use out of that for that one energy that you spent. Saboteur is fun too, because it lets you cancel stuff like Time Warp when they're used against you. And also, it doesn't have to be something used against you, so again, you can use that as a bargaining chip on pretty much anybody's turn to try to earn favor over the course of the game. But, you know, worst comes to worst, it's also the fact that if other people get powerful technology, you do have the ability to turn it off. You have a chance of losing it based on a 1 in 3 roll, rolling at 5 or 6 every time you use it. But you know what? It's also a cheap technology, so I'm not gonna... Yeah, I can't argue about that. It is what it is, but it's still really good for what time you get with it. It's very much worth that 1 point of energy. My last word of advice. A lot of games out there do have really powerful opening moves that a fool wouldn't take. One of those opening moves in Galactic Emperor is Explorer. I'm sorry, but an early Explorer is one of the most beneficial actions to the person that takes the action. Sure, everyone gets to put out space tiles, and some of them might have cool planets they can put near their own home systems, but the person that takes it gets to claim the sector for free, with no help, no warlord or anything like that. And someone else is going to have to take a warlord phase and take the worlds that they put out. And you can go wherever the hell you want. Generally, players don't want to take warlord unless they have to for Explorer's sake. And if somebody decides to throw a wrench in the works out there and do merchant and steward and all that stuff beforehand, you're ready. You already have claim on your world. So you can also do pretty well starting with scientists right out of the gates, because you get starting technology for free, especially if you like the cheap $1 or 1 energy tax that you can get for the price of nothing taking scientists. Yeah, okay, that's a pretty good one too. It's like going builder instead of settler quarry in Puerto Rico. It is a strong opening. So that's going to be it for now. For my local Bremerton viewers, those of you who are nearby, playing Dice Masters especially, don't forget, when I come back from my little vacation, it's going to be Thursday the 28th. that I'll be down at the Blue Sky Hobbies, the Game Wizard, for the hopefully first meeting of the Dice Masters League. Yeah, we're getting a Dice Masters League in Bremerton. I know there's one nearby in Silverdale, but they only meet once a month. Come on, we got to play this game more than that. It's too good to only play once a damn month. So the intention is to do open format stuff. So like with the World Championship decks, I don't care if you're playing DC, Marvel, Yu-Gi-Oh, D&D, or mix it all up. Whatever you want to come up with that gives you a good strategy, bring your decks. 20 life, 20 points, and we'll just play. I don't think we've got a plan for a tournament structure. Matter of fact, I'm not even officially taken in by the store yet. There is some issue with the store owner taking their sweet time getting me put in as an actual volunteer with WizKids, but everybody in the store staff is already 100% behind me, besides the owner, who's, hey, they're busy, legitimately, I get it. So, but once that happens, I'll be able to start putting announcements out on the WizKids event system, and we can hopefully get even more players out to the league. So if you're playing Dice Masters and you're in Kitsap County, Blue Sky Hobbies and the Game Wizard is the place to be every second and fourth Thursday of the month, starting on the 28th of May. So until next time, folks, keep gaming.